The halls of justice often echoed with the weight of heavy hearts and the sharp edges of broken promises. But on this particular morning, the atmosphere in the courtroom of Judge Judy Justice felt uniquely tangled. It was a space where the cold clarity of the law met the messy, vibrant reality of human dreams and disappointments. The case before the court, numbered 3032, involved two individuals whose lives had intersected in a whirlwind of music, business, and the breeding of small, sturdy dogs known as French bulldogs. Amina Thornton sat at the plaintiff's table, her posture reflecting the discipline of a veteran. She was a woman who had served her country and now managed a trucking company alongside her husband. She was a builder of lives and businesses, a person who looked for potential in every corner of the world. Across from her stood Donnie Alford, a man whose life was defined by movement and the pursuit of artistic expression. He was a performer, a dancer who had once captured Amina's attention, not just with his rhythm, but with his aspirations for a career in music. The court officer called the room to order with a voice that commanded immediate silence. Everyone rose as Judge Judy entered, her presence a beacon of no-nonsense authority. She took her seat, her eyes scanning the documents before her, already identifying the many tentacles of the dispute. The case was not merely about money. It was about registration papers, personal property, and a painful allegation of assault that had severed the final ties of the professional and personal relationship. Judge Judy looked at Amina and asked her to explain the nature of her music company. Amina explained that while she was a disabled veteran running a trucking business, she had also ventured into the world of music and dog breeding. She recounted how she first met Donnie at an exotic dancing show in a rented space. She had been a spectator, and in the beginning, the connection seemed filled with possibility. Donnie had spoken of his skills in massage and his deep desire to break into the music industry. Between November of the year 2021 and March of the year 2022, a relationship had formed. Amina, ever the provider, decided to create a space where art could flourish. She rented a 2-bedroom apartment in the prestigious area of Buckhead, Georgia, in February of the year 2022. The lease was in her name alone. She was estranged from her husband at the time, seeking a new path. One of the bedrooms in that apartment was transformed into a music studio, a sanctuary for artists to record their voices and stories. Donnie moved into the apartment in February because, according to Amina, he was facing homelessness. He was a man with a dream, but no roof over his head. Amina lived in one bedroom, and the other served as a studio. While they occasionally shared a room, the primary focus was the work. However, the question of rent soon became a point of contention. Amina testified that there was an agreement for Donnie to pay his share. Yet she was not suing him for the unpaid rent itself, but rather for the consequences of their failed partnership. By June of the year 2022, Amina decided to return to her husband and her family home. She left the apartment but allowed Donnie to stay, eventually attempting to transfer the lease into his name because his credit was insufficient to secure a place on his own. She wanted him to succeed, to have the stability he lacked. When Donnie was given a chance to speak, his version of the story shifted to light. He claimed that Amina had helped him get the apartment through a friend who was a manager, bypassing the usual credit checks. He denied that Amina had ever truly lived there with him. He insisted that he was still the leaseholder, even as an eviction notice loomed over property. He spoke of his life as a performer, claiming he earned a ballpark figure of $80,000 in the year 2022 through entertainment and singing. He believed their agreement was simple. She would provide the financial support and the roof over his head, and he would provide the artistry. Judge Judy, with her keen ability to cut through the noise, moved the focus to the dogs. This side hustle had begun in April of the year 2022. They had decided to breed French bulldogs, starting with a puppy named Crown. Amina had paid a $500 deposit in April and the remaining $4,000 when she picked up the dog in June. Donnie acknowledged that Amina had paid for Crown and stated he was not contesting the ownership of that particular dog. Then came Royalty, the second dog, purchased in June of the year 2022 for $3,500. Amina presented proof of payment, but Donnie claimed he had paid for the dog with cash. When pressed by the judge to show where the $3,500 had come from, Donnie faltered. He claimed he no longer had the bank account from that period. The judge, unimpressed by the lack of evidence, noted that it was highly improbable for someone who could not pay their own rent to have thousands of dollars in cash for a luxury dog. The third dog, a male named Prince, was purchased in August of the year 2022 for $2,500. By this time, Amina was back with her husband. She provided the court with proof of her payment. Donnie again claimed he had contributed $2,500, but had no receipts or bank records to back his assertion, blaming a lost phone and closed accounts. Judge Judy watched the two of them, seeing the tragedy of a partnership built on mismatched expectations. Amina had the physical custody of all three dogs, along with a new litter of 5 puppies born in April of the year 2026. Donnie, however, held the registration papers, effectively holding the dogs' lineages hostage. The tension reached its peak when they discussed the events of December in the year 2022. Amina described a confrontation that arose when she stopped paying the rent and refused to provide further loans. She felt the weight of his demands and the shift in his temper. Donnie denied any assault, standing firm in his belief that he was the victim of a broken business deal. In the end, the law required evidence, and the evidence favored the woman who had kept the receipts and maintained the responsibilities. Judge Judy issued a clear and final order. The court determined that Amina Thornton was the legal owner of the 3 dogs. The judge directed that the American Kennel Club reissue the registration papers in Amina's name, ensuring that her investment and her care for the animals were recognized by the letter of the law. As they left the courtroom, the air seemed to clear. It was a story of a veteran trying to help an artist, a story of dogs that brought joy into a complicated situation, and ultimately, a story about the importance of standing on one's own feet. Amina walked away with her dogs and her dignity, ready to focus on her family and her business, while Donnie was left to reflect on the true cost of his artistry and the necessity of being honest with oneself and others. The justice served was not just about papers and money. It was about setting the record straight, so that everyone could finally move forward.